Daf Yomi Tractate Zevachim, page 26a, top of the page with the words Shachat, V'yachar kach chatach basula. But if he slaughtered the animal and thereafter severed its legs, the offering is disqualified because some of the blood collected is from the legs, which are outside the courtyard. Okay. The Gemara asks, if he severed its hind legs and thereafter he slaughtered it, is the offering fit? If he severed its legs and thereafter slaughtered it, is the offering fit? But isn't he sacrificing a blemished animal? Rather say, if one slaughtered the animal while it stood wholly in the courtyard and afterwards its legs moved beyond the edge of the courtyard, and then he severed its legs, and thereafter collected the blood, the offering is fit. But if he collected the blood and thereafter severed the animal's legs, the offering is disqualified, since the blood from the legs is mixed with the other blood of the animal. Chatach v'yachar kach kibel k'sheiro v'yomar b'seira hatzorem ozen bivcho v'yachar kach kibel damo pasul shenemar v'lakach midam hapar par shaya kvar. The Gemara challenges, if he severed its legs and thereafter collected the blood, is the offering fit? But doesn't Rabbi Zera say, if one slits the ear of a firstborn animal with a knife after slaughter, creating a blemish, and poor thing, I was thinking, anyway, slaughtering and severing its legs and cutting its ear, you would hope there was just a once and for all sacrifice, What if there was just one sacrifice that, that was it? What if? If one slits the ear of a firstborn animal with a knife after slaughter, creating a blemish, and thereafter collected its blood from the neck, the offering is disqualified, as it is stated, and the anointed priest shall take from the blood of the bull, Leviticus 4:5. The verse indicates that the bull must be at the time of collection of the blood, as it already was before slaughter without a blemish. Amar Rav Chizda, Amar Ravini. Chotech be'ever ad shemagia le'etzem. Rav Chizda says that Avini says Rabbi Ami is not referring to a case where one severs the entire leg. Rather, one cuts the flesh of the limb until he reaches the bone, leaving the bone intact. This is not considered a blemish, and the animal remains fit for sacrifice. But why would he do that, Okay. Kibel v'yachar kach chatach b'sulo shemat mina adam hamuvla v'evarim damu. The Gemara suggests, given that if he collected the blood and thereafter severed the animal's legs, the offering is disqualified. Perhaps you can conclude from it that blood absorbed in the limbs of an animal is considered blood such that it disqualifies the offering because this blood left the temple courtyard. Dil mamishum shamnunis. The Gemara responds, perhaps the offering is disqualified because of the animal's fat that is mixed with the blood in the legs. This is considered to be like meat of the offering that has left the temple courtyard, which also disqualifies the offering. Shemahat bina b'sar kodoshim kalim Shiatz lifnei zrikas dam pasul. The Gemara suggests, if so, perhaps you can conclude another halacha from it. In the case of meat of offerings of lesser sanctity that left the temple courtyard before the sprinkling of the blood, the offering is disqualified, even though the meat of such offerings may be eaten outside the temple after the blood has been sprinkled. Dilma bikoche koloshim. The Gemara responds, perhaps the halacha was stated only with regard to offerings of the most sacred order, whose meat must be eaten inside the temple courtyard. It proves nothing about offerings of lesser sanctity. Tanu abanan koche kadashim shchita sam mitzafon. V'givul daman v'chishares mitzafon. Amad v'daom v'hoshit yado l'tzafon v'shachar shchitato kshera. קיבל קבלתו פסולה, הכניס ראשו ורובו כאילו נכנס כולו, פרקסה ויצסה לדרום וחזרה כשרה. The Gemara suggests come and hear a proof from that which the sages taught in a Braita with regard to offerings of the most sacred order. Their slaughter is in the north of the temple courtyard, and collection of their blood is in a service vessel is in the north. If one stood in the south and extended his hand into the north and slaughtered the offering there, the slaughter is valid. If he collected the blood in a similar manner, his collection is not valid. If he inserted his head and most of his body into the north of the courtyard and collected the blood there, it is as if his entire body entered the north. If he slaughtered the animal and then it convulsed and left the north to the south and then returned to the north, it remains fit. Okay. Chadash kalim shchita sam bifnim v'kibul daman b'chishares bifnim amad b'chutz הכניס ידו לפנים ושחר שחילתו כשרה קיבל קבלתו פסולה הכניס ראשו ורובו כאילו לא נכנס פרקסה ויצסה לחוץ וחזרה פסולה שמרינה בשר קודשים קלים שיצא לפני זריקת דמים פסולים. The Braita continues with regard to offerings of lesser sanctity. Their slaughter is anywhere inside the temple courtyard, and collection of their blood in a service vessel is anywhere inside the temple courtyard. If one stood outside and inserted his hand into the courtyard and slaughtered the offering there, his slaughter is valid. If he collected the blood in a similar manner, his collection is not valid, and if he inserted his head and most of his body into the courtyard and collected the blood, it is as if he had not entered at all. If he slaughtered the animal and then it convulsed and left to the outside of the courtyard and returned, it is disqualified. The Gemara first concludes from this Braita that in cases of meat of offerings of less sanctity that left the courtyard before the sprinkling of the blood, the offerings are disqualified. The Gemara responds, perhaps the Braita is referring to the tail, the diaphragm, and the two kidneys of offerings of lesser sanctity, which are all burned on the altar, since these portions are never meant to leave the temple courtyard. They are disqualified. If they leave even momentarily, it may still be that the remaining meat of such offerings is not disqualified. The Shmuel's father raised a dilemma before Shmuel. If the offering was standing inside the temple courtyard and his legs were outside, what is the halacha? May one slaughter it? Amar le, Shmuel said to him, Ketiv is written, it says, it's written, that they may bring them to the Lord. Leviticus 17 verse 5, indicating that the offering may not be slaughtered unless all of it is inside. Tala v'shachad mahu. Here's an interesting case. What if he suspended the animal in the air? That's interesting. How do you do that? Put on strings and then you slaughter it? Tala v'shachad mahu. Amalei kshera. Amalei ishtabasht. Be'enan. Shchita al yerech veleka. His father asked the brother if one suspended the animal in the air and slaughtered it, what is the halacha? Shmuel said to him, it is valid. His father said to him, you are mistaken. We require that the slaughter occur on the side of the altar, see Leviticus 1:11, and this is not considered to fulfill that requirement. Nitela v'shachad mahu. His father asked him again, this sounds very familiar, the sequence. His father asked him again, and he said he made a mistake. Ishtabasht. Wow. This is interesting. This is really interesting. Ishtabasht. 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 You made a mistake. Okay, Ishtabasht. Okay, he asked him, if you hung an animal, if you suspended it in the air, right? So what's it? And slaughtered the offering while it was on the ground. Shmuel says it's not valid. His father said you're mistaken. We require only that the slaughter occur on the side of the altar, but not the one who slaughters it be on the side. If the one slaughtered, if the person was hung, so I don't know how you do that. If you're suspended by ropes or something, and you're able to slaughter an animal while off the ground, and the animal's on the ground, then it's good. All right. We require only the slaughter occur on the side of the altar, but not that the one who slaughters be on the side of the altar. His father asked him again if the priest was suspended in the air and collected the blood of the offering in that position. What is the halacha? Shmuel said to him, it is valid. His father said to him, you are mistaken. This is not a normal manner of administration. The father asked him again if the priest suspended the offering in the air after slaughter and collected his blood, what is the halacha? Shmuel said to him, it is not valid. His father said to him, you're mistaken. We require only that the slaughter occur on the side of the altar, but not that collection of the blood occur on the side of the altar. Abaye said with regards to offerings of the most sacred order, in all of those cases the offerings are disqualified except for the case where one was suspended in the air and slaughtered the animal. With regard, I'm just trying to picture this thing. He's suspended with ropes on the air and whatever, and he has this big shechita knife, and he goes, see, they like a trapeze kind of thing, they just, and then he does the shechita real quickly. Maybe it was like a entertainment thing, like a flying trapeze show where he slaughtered the animal, suspended in the air. Maybe he was upside down, and they hung him by his feet. They hung him by his feet, and they lowered it. They hoisted him down, and then he was like, anyway, all right. So they hoisted him down. Does hoist work for only hoisting up, Or does it also work, you hoist him down? I don't know, whatever, you get the idea. Rava said, what is different about a case where one suspended the animal and collected... Oh, man. Where am I? Abaye said, with regard to the offerings of the most sacred order, in all of those cases of the offerings are disqualified, except in a case where one was suspended in the air and slaughtered the animal. With regard to offerings of lesser sanctity, in all of those cases, the offerings are fit, except for the case where the priest was suspended in the air and collected the blood. Rava said, what is different about a case where one suspended the animal and collected the blood of an offering of lesser sanctity, such that the offering is fit? Perhaps it is because the air inside the temple courtyard is considered to be inside the courtyard for purposes of the service. But if so, then with regard to offerings of the most sacred order as well, let one say that the air in the north of the temple courtyard is considered to be in the north for purposes of the service. Rather, Rava says both with regard to offerings of the most sacred order and with regard to offerings of lesser sanctity, they are fit in all those cases except where one suspended the animal and slaughtered it in the case of offerings of the most sacred order, because the Torah mandates that such offerings be slaughtered on the side of the altar. And the offerings the offerings are also disqualified when the priest was suspended in the air and collected the blood, both with regard to offerings of the most sacred order, with regard to offerings of lesser sanctity, since this is not a normal manner of administration. Rabbi Yirmiyah raised the dilemma for Zera. If the priest was inside and his fringes, meaning his hair were outside, and he collected the blood with his yalach, Rabbi Zera said to him, doesn't a Kohen have to have short hair? It's a law. A Kohen has to have short hair. How can your hair be outside? It can't be. This is impossible. It's a good question. His hair. Maybe or tzitzis? No. Anyway, his hair were outside. He collected the blood. Rabbi Zera said to him, do you not say that the verse that they may bring them to the Lord, Leviticus 17:5, indicates that an offering may not be slaughtered unless it comes inside? Here too, the verse states with regard to the priests, when they go into the tent of meeting, Exodus 28:43, indicating that the priest may not perform rites unless all of him comes into the tent of meeting. That's the Gemara. Now we start a new Mishnah. Mishnah Tano al Gavi HaKevesh Shelo Keneged HaYesod Natan Et HaNitanim Lematei Lamala Et HaNitanim Lamala Lamata Et HaNitanim Bifnim Bachutz V'et HaNitanim Bachutz Bifnim Pasul V'emo Kares. The Mishnah says, and with this we'll conclude this Amud and call it a day for this Amud and continue the next Amud. If the priest placed the blood upon the ramp leading up to the altar, or if he placed it on the wall of the altar in an area that is not opposite the base of the altar, meaning in those parts of the altar where there is no foundation, or if he replaced the blood that is to be placed below the red line that runs along the middle of the altar, for example, the blood of a burnt offering above the red line, or if he placed the blood that is to be placed above the red line, for example, the blood of a sin offering below the red line, or if he placed the blood that is to be placed inside the sanctuary, meaning on the golden altar, or in the Holy of Holies outside the sanctuary on the external altar, Or if you place the blood that is to be placed outside the sanctuary, inside the sanctuary, in all these cases the offering is disqualified. Nevertheless, there is no liability for karet for one who partakes of these offerings. And with this, we'll conclude 26a, and Mir Hashem pick it up with B in the next video.